Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? I think we're going to have a fun one today.
Ruben Bressler.
I don't know if I caught the sound, the clap.
Don't worry about the sound clap. It's fine. It's cool.
All right. Well, anyway, hi, how's it going?
Hey,
Good to
it's
see
Ruben.
you.
Now, if you missed our pre-show, patrons and subs to this channel get access to our extended version early. And with that, we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !! raffle in the chat. But sub first to get 2 chances to win. And support your favorite streamer with your suggestions of the show to see who we raid tonight. That is thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every single day.
And I will add that it is still September, where you can gift a sub, manage your own sub. Hey, check out those dangling primes, everybody. You don't have to talk to your doctor about it, but if you have an Amazon Prime account, you also get a free Twitch sub. And if you have one of those just out there not being used, consider using it on this show. Gifted subs, I think, get a 50% or some sort of bonus, and we get a ton of bonus for September as well.
Yeah.
And remember to give us a review and a 5-star thing wherever you're downloading, listening to this, whatever.
There you go. So unfortunately I have to start a little somber this week. We lost a titan of the game, a absolute pillar of the community. Sheldon Menery passed away, which was horrible. And his loss is basically being felt. The ripples have kind of been pouring outwards ever since then, with people posting on Twitter, and they're posting on the remembrance pages. His wife reported it on September 8th that he passed away the night before. I've been going through, racking my mind of all the different interactions, and a lot of them for me, because I wasn't in the judge program per se, but I was tangential when I went to all those pro tours. Like, he was there. And so, over time, definitely kept in touch, and definitely had him out to a Command Fest or two, in Orlando for Cool Stuff Inc. But also over time of just thinking about, like, when I started to just sort of trace back my entire career, like particularly, when I was making the Magic Show and I was going to all these different events, and I went to the first event with Sheldon, which I think was 2009 Worlds in San Francisco. And, met him, and, there was that classic, like, picture of him where he's just like looking like that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He's just, he came, his reputation preceded him, and to interact with him and just kind of be like, hey, you keeping down the fort and keeping the bad guys away. And he's like, absolutely, and making sure everybody was taken care of and was looked after. And there was some amount of interaction that I did with the judge program. For example, I became a judge at one point at level 1 so that they could justify bringing me all the way to Hawaii, which was insane and awesome. And, being that high up in the judge program, had to be aware of all that stuff happening, and didn't say anything bad about it. Made sure I was, properly dressed or whatever at the time. I had to get like some black pants and stuff so I could have the correct look, as I was over here trying to get footage and whatnot. But Sheldon himself, absolutely incredible dude. I got the opportunity to hang out with him, to have a meal with him last time I was in Orlando and he was there. Got to have even multiple meals with him over time. Share with him some stuff that we cared about, and fun stuff. I was saying that I spoke with him on DM 10 days ago, and it nothing, big.
Planning for the future.
We were talking about, Command Fest is happening for Command Fest Orlando is happening in October. And we were going to have, we're going to try to have him out. And he was like, I've been feeling, better. And we're like, okay, great. Let's make it happen. Let's get you somebody to help. If you have to take half days or whatever, not a problem. You know what I mean? And we didn't want to pressure him by putting him on the website, for example, to make sure he had to show up. Like, no, man, if you want to show up, we're here for you. And that was incredible. And it just sucks to see someone, first of all, cancer, and to see someone taken way before he should have been, and was really entering that prime of being able to just enjoy himself and take care of his own family and his friends, and just taken too soon. And Sheldon was an amazing dude, and I'm sorry he's gone.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I think a lot of people don't realize how diverse his knowledge and interests were.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people know him as just like the Magic guy or the Commander guy. But anybody who knows him will tell you, like, the dude knew about movies and history, and like he could tell you the lineage of like 50 different wines.
And the
like,
wines, man. He loved the wines.
I was just gonna
man.
say,
It's so good.
Like sports, he had a huge sports knowledge, right? Like just all these things. Like honestly, he was probably the closest thing we had in Magic to like the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah,
right. Because he could tell you military stories.
Right.
Like I mean, just like so much that truthfully, I think this is the case with several people who knew him, that unless you made time to play Magic or talk about Magic, you weren't spending time doing Magic things with him a lot of time. Like you go out and eat, and we're talking about everything but Magic. Like I don't think people realize that. Like you would think this guy would have Magic on his mind 24/7, and even though he might, like there were spaces for it, and he made sure that nope, I'm just going to surround myself with people, and we're just going to have this other thing that's not Magic. And one of the things he always said is, I don't need to know everything or get everything right. I just have to surround myself with the right people. You know, and that's what he pushed on everybody. Just live and surround yourself with good people. Everything else will take care of itself. And I largely agree with that.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain I probably first met Sheldon in 2007 is my guess, which was Worlds in New York City. It was one of the Worlds events. It was Worlds Memphis, Worlds New York City, something like that. But I didn't get to know him until I started working in office at Star City Games in 2010 is when I started working there. And while he wasn't in office at Star City, he was the red shirt, the head judge of a number of events. And, you know, as I was one of the people on the road helping run those events, the when SCG Live existed, you know, one of the on-site tournament organizers, like what Glenn Jones did, what Nick Miller did, that was my role. And I was the primary of that for about a year. And so I was constantly talking to all of our head judge types, you know, folks like Jared Silva, who worked in office at SCG, but you know, there were lots of other red shirts as well. And we had a great rapport and would always be checking in with each other. And, you know, and you're right. If it weren't mandatory to talk about Magic, you weren't talking about Magic. He was checking in on you, making sure that you were, you know, okay. We were talking about, you know, good food, good wine, good friends, other things like that. Every story, like coming out of the woodwork, it seems like are these great stories of how selfless and good of a person Sheldon was. And I hesitate to say this, but I can't think of someone who has and this is a weird thing to say, I suppose, but who has passed away in Magic, who is as big of a figure as Sheldon. The reverberations, he created the game's most popular format. He is one of the only head judge emerituses or level 5 emerituses of all time. You know, he's such an enormous figure, and even besides professional accomplishments and his incredible addition of creating what we now call Commander, he would have been remembered as a great friend and a mentor and someone who is someone to look up to. And you know, the last time I got to talk to him was on the Magic Mike's +1+1, which was about 5 months ago, and it was a great chat. It was awesome catching up. You know, he had so many people in his life that looked up to him, and he carried it with, you know, and his illness he carried with grace and with kindness, and he made time for everyone. And it sucks. And I think that the best thing that we can do is make sure that we keep telling stories about him, because, you know, when somebody dies, a little bit of you gets lost, but a little bit of them gets to keep living. So we get to keep living in his, so have some good wine is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know, the other thing I'll add too that made it a little tough was that while like there were some of us he confided in and we knew how bad his condition was, right? He got the prognosis a couple months back to like, hey, we've hit the point that we can't do anything else. But he made sure he didn't want to make it a thing. He didn't want it to be about him. You know, he wanted to still do everything he could do, still wanted to support all the groups and the charities that he could. Like he was, you know, honestly, kind of relates to the stories I heard about Chadwick Boseman after he passed, right? You find out he was going to cancer treatments and still showing up on set to film stuff. And, like there's just a different breed of people that are built like that are still just going to go out doing good all the way to the end, and that was a little bit hard in some ways, but on the one level, it's like, okay, cool. I'm one of the people he feels comfortable enough to tell this to, but at the same time going like, man, let me just take care of you. Let me do something, but he was surrounded with good people. He felt he had what he needed and whatever happened was going to happen and went out being positive all the way to the end. So like, hopefully I am in a position that I can have that kind of grace on the way out, that type of, I don't know if I'll say stoicism, but just like comfort and confidence that you're okay with it when it happens.
He was thoughtful, he was kind, and that never changed, and he was giving and, always wanting to sort of pay it forward. If he liked you and he could sort of help influence your career, I've saw multiple times where he will speak up to people that matter in your life, be like, hey, this person's doing a good job or this person's doing great, and let's keep this person on the road to wherever they're headed. And and at the same time just so happened to literally make the most played format ever to be the cornerstone of that type of thing is incredible. That's going to outlive him for generations. God knows how long this crazy game's going to be around, and it's thanks to Sheldon. And so that's where on the Mount Rushmore of Magic, we got Garfield, we got Rosewater, we got Sheldon right there. He's the one that tamed the Wild West. We're not going to have villains in Magic. No, we're getting those cheaters the hell out of our game. He's going to be right there making sure that we do. He kicked a lot of butt for a very long time of people who thought they were smarter than he was, and they were not. And let me tell you, Sheldon has found quite a clever fool who thought they could pull one over on him. So just an absolutely incredible man. I'm lucky to have known him as I did, and we lost a real one.
Yeah, I look forward to my next Commander night because it's going to be interesting. It's going to be somber, but I think there's something important about sharing the memory of somebody. I'm not going to get to go to his funeral. I'm not going to get to go to his whatever, but there's something important about sharing the memory of people afterwards. And every Commander night is going to have that. And I think that that's incredibly special.
Yeah, and as far as Mr. Judd knows, I do hope there's going to be an announcement, a moment of silence for Sheldon at Vegas. Give him, the respect he deserves.
I'm sure
there's
got to be.
Yeah, there's some links in the show notes here. I'm gonna drop it here in the chat so you guys can check it out. But there was a WeRemember.com page that has a bunch of memories and photos, and it's one of the things that just like breaks my heart is that I was just not into taking selfies and taking photos with a lot of people back when I was at the Pro Tour. And that to me is just a gigantic mistake that I can't go back and fix, but, and that's what killed me when I'm looking back at all those old photos and I'm just not seeing Sheldon. Why? Because he's running the event, and I'm over here, I'm in the feature match area. He's over there making sure everything's working and everybody's, doing their job and stuff.
He was on my list of interviewing subjects that I was going to interview for my joke interview show. But he was always busy, obviously, at events, and I couldn't quite get him on the show. But that one was a white whale for me. But never.
It's funny you say that about pictures because I've always been bad about that. I've always been one to try to make time for people, but I never really worried about I need to keep all this for myself.
Right.
So it wasn't a thing. But just recently I got into the habit, like, let me at least take a couple of pictures, right? Even if it's not for content or whatever, I just want one or two for myself. And fortunately, the last time I was in Orlando, I did get a picture with Sheldon because I thought, I don't know how many more opportunities I might have for this. So I have one really happy picture with two of us, and I was like, man. And that moment kind of got me to think about how mad would I have been if I didn't take that picture?
Yeah.
Like
I'm pretty
and now
sure.
I'm thinking about that with other situations. So now I'm just like, okay, I need to be being better about this.
I'm pretty sure I'm a part of a photo that someone took at a dinner at St. Elmo's in Indianapolis
No, that's one of his favorite places.
Right?
Oh my god.
Which is like a
awesome.
classic
That
location
place is insane.
during Gen Con. And there's like 12 of us, probably 20 of us in the photo or whatever, but I'm pretty sure there's a photo somewhere of that.
By the way, everybody wants to go to St. Elmo's for that shrimp cocktail, but my god, that stuff burns your nose. Like,
it does.
It's
I love
awesome.
me a horseradish.
Oh
Listen,
my goodness.
That's what's so awesome about
that's
it.
It
what
is
you want.
heavy on the horseradish.
I'm a Jewish person. Give me as much horseradish.
Ooh, I struggle
the
getting
ketchup.
through that.
Dude, you have to eat it in a certain way with like the cracker a certain way so you don't
Yeah,
just get it
oh
all
my
up in
God.
your nostrils
Plug
and it
your
just
nose
burns.
while you
And
yep.
it's tough because the flavor is so good. But man, once it gets back to the back of your mouth, oh my god.
Yep,
I can't do it.
It
I
is
can't do it.
wild. So let's go ahead and move on here to Gather the Townsfolk. Thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders. Use the code MagicMics at checkout for 12% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you, and we appreciate them supporting the show. So there was an interesting article that got posted called State of Formats in MTG Arena. Now, look, this past summer has been one of the lowest amounts of Magic I've played in a very long time. Like, they send out that, like, hey, here's your arena stats or whatever. And normally I'm playing 600-700 games or whatever of a format, and I've earned tens and then thousands of gold or whatever. I played 112 games in the Lord of the Rings season, and that is like a cripplingly low number for particularly me. And so, when I'm trying to go back and read these types of articles where they're trying to explain to us how these formats are being played and how often they're being played, and we'll go through here a little bit here, and it's talking about, hey, there's tabletop and digital, there's rotating and non-rotating, just kind of explaining how those formats work, sure. And he says here's the queue play by format, where standard is the highest, followed by historic, and explorer is way at the bottom. Because why? If you're going to play explorer, which is like Pioneer Light, why don't you just go ahead and play historic and play with all the goodies, right?
Yeah.
So alchemy is still kind of struggling. Have you noticed
Sure.
we did not have an alchemy release for Wilds of Eldraine?
I did notice that.
Did not mention it at all. And Brawl is still there, just kind of fighting. And apparently they both queued in historic and standard Brawl. I think probably for good reason.
Sure, that's fine.
Which is fine. But, then they say stuff like, the standard is healthy. Explorer is healthy. Alchemy is healthy. Like any format, at this point, any format that has the One Ring and Orcish Bowmasters is a format built around the One Ring and Orcish Bowmasters. And I get they can't say anything about it until the special edition collector stuff is out so they can finish selling that stuff and people can get it and be happy. But man, those formats are just warped to hell. And I don't know what else to say other than, like, are we playing different games? Like, I just don't get it. Like, all these formats they're super great, and everyone's playing them, and everybody likes them, and they're super healthy. And I'm like, really? Because it doesn't seem
I will
like
say
that.
this though, like, I'm wondering what they're using to measure their term of healthy, right? Because if we're saying variety of decks and percentage of people playing certain things, whatever, like, I could see how you could come to something that's construed as that. Because, like, and I've even, because, like, I don't play much historic, I don't make any historic content, but I'll occasionally watch some people that do, and they seem to like historic, even though they also are playing Orcish Bowmaster. So, like, if they're happy with it and that's one of the metrics, then I mean, I guess it's healthy, but, like, I don't want to play that. Some
took away that they were, like, saying that they're not going to put modern on the client from this article, and I didn't really take that away from that.
I didn't either.
For me, they're trying to complete Pioneer. Once you complete Pioneer, we can have a modern discussion. You know what I'm saying? You can't just let
Pioneer
them bite
comes
off
first.
Yeah, don't let them bite off all this crap and then, like, be mad when they don't get it all done in 3 years. Like, no. Let's catch up to Pioneer, get Pioneer in there. Like, they are going to have Modern Horizons 3 in the client, and I'm like, y'all sure about that?
Yeah.
You sure you want what's coming? Because there's a gigantically high chance that all the silly elementals are going to be in there. Urza's Saga is going to be in there.
The only thing I can figure is that they figure we're already going to do the work, and to me that's a sign that eventually Modern's going to be on there. Right.
We'll get there.
We're already doing the work, and it's there. Let's just make some money off of it while it sits there, while we're waiting for the rest of the Modern cards. Because in chat they're saying they're surprised that Explorer is lower than Alchemy, but I think you hit it right on the head, right? If you're going to go spend the time to get the older cards, like why not just play Historic right now?
Right.
Just power it all up.
Once we get Pioneer on there, that changes the whole discussion, because then now you start getting people who are practicing Pioneer, and then there's probably going to be some more tournaments run and whatever. So then it becomes a more played format. But until then, yeah, hardly any. And I can tell you, I've done some Explorer content. It doesn't draw views. It just doesn't by comparison. Like even people that ask want you to do it, but then it's just not as popular.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate them, sharing any data that they can, which is nice. And, a popular response, because Lord knows I've been through it before, because it is just my own little tiny window in the world of Magic, my own little tiny window in the world of playing Arena, right? I am not playing millions of games. I understand that. And so often Wizards, I would say, hey, I don't understand so-and-so. I've talked to many people who share the same experience, and they go, well, when you look at all the data, you're wrong. And I'm like, I look at all the data, and they go, absolutely not. And I go, all right, well, thank you. They're like, you're wrong as hell. And I'm like, can you prove me that? And they're like, we can prove it.
I hate
that door.
That. That's the worst. That is the worst response. And it's not just Arena. It's not just Magic.
It's all
lots
companies.
Of people who are like, you're wrong. And I'm like, with my information, I'm not wrong. And they're like, well, with my information, you're wrong. And I'm not sharing.
Yeah.
God, I hate that.
And it's tough, because having been there, I can tell you there's so much data coming into the building. Like they literally have a department. I forgot what they called it. Business intelligence, I think, is just what it is. Just the BI team.
Just grinding through.
But that's literally all they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And one of their branches is like, they're doing surveys, they're doing test groups, they even do the thing where like observe people playing things and trying stuff out. Like they have a team for that. Like it's just constant. So it may be true. I'm not saying it is or not. I don't know. Again, I can't see the numbers at this point.
I'm just saying that they have told me this. I'm talking like half a dozen times there have been points where I go to Wizards or somebody works there, and I'm just like,
sure.
You sure that this is the most popular, the most diverse, or the most whatever? And they go, absolutely. And I cannot explain to you why nor show you the data.
Right? But like I said, if we're coming back to like, are people playing a variety of decks? Are people having fun with the matchups? Like there is a large variety still to now. In Standard, do we all hate Shieldred? Sure. But is that dominating the format? Not really. It's just annoying when it shows up.
Right.
But looking at the charts that they showed, it kind of makes sense. Even Standard having a slight dip over the last like 6 months, because it's just been Lord of the Rings crap and there hasn't been a new Standard set. So
it's been ignored.
Even that makes sense to me. So I'm just like, yeah, I guess. Like, I don't think these charts are wrong.
Now, another thing that may affect Arena moving forward is some Unity stuff we'll talk about in a little bit. But either way, high five giving us some data. I appreciate it. It's cool to know that Standard is the most played thing still. What they need to do is get butts in seats. They need to take the Standard players on this client and put them into the seats of local game stores. And as we discussed, they have this 1000 XP thing if you play in your store. That's not enough. I hate to tell you. It's not
random
enough.
Thing I found about this week that I did not know, and I felt like I should have known, and somehow I didn't. But one of the groups I'm in, somebody shares a message they got when they finished the color challenge in Arena. And they're like, hey, is this real? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me see. I hadn't seen it before. And I'm looking at it and it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's legit. But when you finish, they send you a thing saying, give us your information. We will send you a free 2-player starter deck, shipping and all. Yeah. Like, so if you go in, you do the tutorials, you do all the color challenges, and then it ticks a box and it gives you a little message. You click on it, takes you to a website, tells you all the stuff you need to do, and then they just send you free cards. Awesome. That's a thing that should be promoted. Like, I don't know why it's not. Like, hey, we're doing this thing to get people in your store for like 1000 XP, but we're not bragging about we're giving every player paper cards.
Yeah.
We're sending it to their homes, free decks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like real Magic cards. Like, isn't that a thing?
I'm like, this is a thing we should be talking about. This is great. This is exactly what they should be doing with for as many things as I can complain about, this is a thing that I'm like, yes, more of this. This is exactly right. Why are we not talking about this?
So, so that's a whole thing they should be doing more of, and more integration. And we've been over the whole Standard thing and Standard events and the next RCQ season Standard. So that's also like a concern. Like, is anyone actually going to show up per se? But we move on here into the World Championships that are going to happen at Vegas. $1 million, 110 people, 3 days of competition. Very straightforward stuff. Wilds of Eldraine draft along with standard. Current world champion Nathan Stour, of course, who's there to defend his title. The kid is unbelievably good at Magic. Just one of those you can just feel it through the screen.
He's in a Nikolai Herzog, Kai Bude phase of like, can anyone beat him right now, and when will it happen?
Yeah,
he's an end boss at this point. People like when you look at who I can get paired with this round or whatever, he's one of the ones you don't want. Like, don't be wrong, world champions, everybody's good, but you know as well as I do, at any event, there's 4 or 5 people you're like, let me just get them later in the tournament, please. Right?
Don't make me play Nassif like round 2, okay? He's
one of those people that's on that list. You want to get him on day 2. You don't want him like wrecking your dreams early on, right?
Right. And lest us forget, Javier Dominguez is a former world champion who's currently leading the race. So didn't
he come close to being a second world champion at one point? Like he came a little short. So, one of them. So he had a shot.
Yeah. So, Nathan Stour, the defending champion, made 2 of 3 Pro Tour top 8s this season and 1 PT March of the Machine. Like, this kid is just crazy, unstoppable. He is the best player in the world right now. I don't think it's really close, quite frankly.
Honestly, let me also say, too, I actually like the payout they changed to for Worlds. And because I know people like seeing the big number of like first prize getting 250K or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But even 100K is still a very strong first prize.
For sure.
That's also a very strong amount of money, yes.
I love the fact there's a $4,000 floor.
Yes.
So like you show up, you're still getting 4K in your pocket. You paid for your weekend. You're probably still pocketing another couple $1,000s. Great. Right?
It's a much more flattened payout structure. It's much more in line with what I expect from an invite tournament. And I'm all for it.
I get, like I said, that people want to have the big number and they want to have something to show off and talk about or whatever, but I would rather more people get more out of the weekend, right?
Yes, agreed.
Because it's rough, right? Maybe you have a good run, you have some bad luck in the top 8, or maybe you barely missed the cut and you're just outside the 8 or whatever. All right, cool. You're still getting like, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 grand. Like you could live with that.
I also like the floor because it means that even if you scrub out, you pay for the trip.
Yeah,
like you don't
for sure.
lose money on trying to compete in the world championships. And I think that's
I've never understood that with any tournament, not just Magic, but when I would see prizes where people have to spend all this to get there, and then there's not even a guarantee
for an invite, for an invite only tournament.
For an event you qualified for. So it's like, why though? Yeah. Like it doesn't, in this case, we shave some money off first place. It's still a pile of money.
For sure.
So no one's mad about it, and you take care of everybody else.
I'm begging. I'm begging Wizards, please, please, please make Twitch drops happen. You can do them. You have the resources. I know they're in different places, but I promise you, just imagine a world where we talked about the World's Championships, we talked about the broadcast, and we said something like, if you watch it for at least an hour on day 1, you'll get, some play-in points or something low or some XP. But if you watch it, also watch it another hour the second day, you'll get some gold or maybe some gems. And if you watch at least an hour on all 3 days, they'll give you a draft token. And do you have any idea the metrics you would completely destroy? I mean, it would be embarrassing. You would absolutely, from the top rope. Oh, dude. I'm telling you, the stuff they gave away for Marvel Snap for those people to stream was because cosmetics, and they got tens of thousands of viewers like they had never seen before. It was nuts.
Twitch drops, man. Dude, they
not
work
just that,
every time.
You could do a card back if you wanted to.
Sure.
You could do a pet. You could do it doesn't. You don't even have to lose any money on it.
Do an emote.
Like you could make it anything.
Sure. Yeah. Like it. Again, literally any reward. I will go gangbusters. The 1,000 XP to stores, awesome. But you're not focusing on how to really make this stream thrive. And that's the power in your hands, and they can do it. I promise you can.
There was a question in chat. Nathan Stour, I believe, is from Northern Virginia.
Okay.
If I recall. He's from the DC area, I think.
All right. Well, we're going to move on here to some splashy damage. Not quite Magic, but close. And I do think particularly that, which is Magic, which the fact that Unity, what the hell is Unity doing is the first question, which is they have decided to change their plan pricing and package updates. Now, traditionally, this is as I understand
before you start, how is this relevant?
Well, hold on, I'll tell you. So
okay.
Unity is a game development software platform. You make games in the Unity engine and you pay them a license fee every year. I think it's like $2,500 a year is like the lowest one. So like the standard developer ones. And that lets you get access to all of their engines, all of their prefab stuff, all of their scripts and things they have loaded for you to help you make all the games that you want. Magic is made inside it. A whole bunch of the games that you play.
Oh, is Arena made in Unity?
Arena is made in Unity. And so,
yeah, I looked up the number earlier, 230,000 developers, 750,000+ games use Unity.
It's a lot. So they have decided, just, very much close to the OGL debacle, quite frankly, that they are going to change the deal and they're now going to charge you based on installs of people installing your game. They had to go back and say suddenly people reinstalling wouldn't count because before it would, which means if somebody hated a developer, they could uninstall and reinstall over and over and charge them to death.
Hilarious.
Over it. I know, right? People would.
Sure.
And so they've decided to charge fees based on install rates. And then they said, don't worry about Xbox Game Pass and those types of services because Microsoft will pay that cost, not you. And it's like, you realize you just incentivize Microsoft to never use Unity games because there's an extra fee on top of it. So they just decided to create a fee based on usage that they had never done before. And there's multiple scenarios, things like humble bundles and things where if enough people install your game based on that bundle, you could be losing money based on what they're paying you for that bundle versus what Unity is charging you for it. So it's a lot of charges out of nowhere. There's been multiple developers who are flipping out. There's at least one developer who said they're deleting their game as of January 1st. And just
really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few things. I think they said it's going to start at if your game does $200,000 or 200,000 downloads, or maybe it has to do both.
They might have
so
to
like
both,
so there is a threshold before they start charging you the bonus money because you still have to pay to license the engine on top of it.
One assumes Arena hits the threshold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if it doesn't.
Right.
So what does this mean in the short term and the long term for Arena? Does that mean that prices will go up? We don't know. I guess that's even scarier.
Everyone's freaking out.
Yeah, to Evan's point, there were developers saying like even they have to go back and look at their old catalog and see what numbers are still going on, right? Because if you have stuff that's still being reasonably downloaded,
right,
but maybe not enough that it's super profitable anymore, like you have to go take down a bunch of stuff off of Steam and everything else, because now it's just going to start costing you money for not a lot of bonus revenue.
And what's wild is that pirated copies also count.
Yep.
If you pirate their game and install it, it also counts. They make you pay for that, which is unbelievable. So these people, like,
because it'll show as an install somewhere.
Bad.
It's going to literally sink some companies. Yeah. It's going to literally cripple other companies and going to make a lot of people, just like with the OGL thing, go to some other engine that makes way more sense. But just like, like for the example,
that was exactly my. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that, in order to take a game from A to B, it's not just hit a button or convert button here. No, it's like engines. Like, you can know car engines and motorcycle engines.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you know how to work on both.
But you'd have to take it out part by part and possibly put it in a new thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but it's situations like this with a lot of companies that, because you think 750,000 games made with this, right? You effectively have the market.
Yeah.
Like there's no argument there. But when you do something like this, you open up the door for competitors where before there was no room. Right?
Do they have the lion's share of the market?
A ton. It's not even close.
Unreal's still out there, and
I was going to say
stuff.
Unreal Engine, I thought was a big company as well.
It's a competitor, and they're getting obviously a lot more love right now. This is the opportunity for them to try to get those people on their side. Be like, hey, we'll help you develop tools to make it work in Unreal Engine and yada yada yada. I'm sure they're working on that right now. If anything, I'm guessing that Unity is having some come to Jesus moments, and also it was discovered that some of the Unity executives sold stock before they announced this change.
Oh yeah, the CEO sold 20,000 shares or 2,000 shares, I believe it was.
Insider trading,
So it's real gross, and
there's probably a way he could dance around it, but you're damn close to insider trading. Like somebody just blew on you too hard. You're over the line.
Right.
You know?
Let's get somebody talk to the SEC, y'all. So either way, that's huge in that this is the foundation to Magic Arena, and
Right.
it's going to affect them, their bottom line in a very, very big way, and could either divert development, could change it. They could literally just put the brakes on it and say we're moving over to Unreal, and we're putting everything on hold until we get to Unreal.
And if Unreal smart, you just find a way to make a conversion kit.
You do.
Like whatever that is, you spend the development over the next 2 months.
Yep.
And just all hands on deck. We need to make this happen so people can convert their stuff over.
Yeah. So it's real disgusting, and I feel for all the Unity developers out there, even Arena, y'all. Like, it's not easy because there's some hard decisions to be made. ReedPop is no longer making E3. They parted ways to the surprise of almost nobody. I don't think E3 is ever going to see the light of day ever again. Yeah. And this is just another nail in that coffin, quite frankly.
This is what, year 3 or 4? Year 4 it didn't happen, I think, at this point. So it's like, yeah. So like, I don't know of a single convention that came back after not being alive for 3 years.
Right.
COVID just killed it dead, quite frankly.
And this is ReedPop is the company that makes the Magic Fests.
Correct. They do the Magic Fests.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I mean, probably one less thing for them to do. You know what I mean? Like, well, we had no idea how to revamp it either. So thanks, guys. The first Lorcana expansion has been announced. Rise of the Floodborn.
The second chapter, the first expansion.
The first expansion, yes.
Right.
And there's just one card that, again, you don't even have to play the game to understand what I'm trying to explain here. There is a new card that is currently pre-selling for like $80 to $100 on TCG Player.
Which one?
It is the Bella that when your opponent attacks it, aka challenges it, they have to discard their hand.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that card is, I don't even know.
It's a control deck's nightmare. I mean, challenging it isn't the only way to kill it, though. So.
That's true, but it does.
It's also, as I recall, it's a 5-drop that can't be inked.
Right, it's a uninkable 5-drop, which there's a few of those which are good.
In green, right?
Yeah, and again,
so it's competing against Kuzco. Like, it's a good card.
It's a good card,
but that's a tough spot to get play in anyway.
Right, and it's a very crazy ability, basically. So that's a little silly. So congratulations to those players, and good luck getting product. Like the
lore, I will say, the lore of the second expansion is very interesting. So for those of you that don't know, the way that the story of Lorcana is developing is that you have the Storyborn cards, which are taken straight out of the movies.
Right.
You have the Dreamborn cards, which are sort of plays on the movies, but they are the current timeline of those characters. And then you have the Floodborn characters, which are alternate reality versions. You have the version with Hades, King of Olympus, and you have Mickey Mouse, artful rogue archer guy. And like all the Floodborn cards have these like crazy, like what if moments.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have the shift ability, which allow you to change their fates. And in this new set, we have the Rise of the Floodborn, where all the lore that we've been fighting over is spilling into our universe. And we need you, the Lumineers, to help solve it. It's very cute. It's very good lore. It's a very good story, and I'm enjoying the game, honestly.
It's a neat little game. So that said, that's what's happening in those worlds. Let's go ahead and turn the corner here to the finisher. Now, few, if any, of us will leave a legacy as long and illustrious as Sheldon Menery. But we all have personal memories of Mr. Menery, rather, and he'd want us to remember him fondly. So in lieu of a joke, we want to ask here, what story do you have about Sheldon, Ruben?
Yeah, I was racking my brain trying to think of a personal anecdote I had about Sheldon. And the one that came to mind was some personal advice he gave me. After I left SCG, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of lost and adrift. And one of the things I was considering was pursuing the judge path. And Sheldon was one of the people I was talking to about thinking about, should I pursue being a judge? And we had like a pretty decent conversation. And at the end of it, it was like pretty obvious that I shouldn't. It was a thing of like, I enjoy being a level 1 judge, but it was not the kind of thing that I wanted to pursue. And I think he saw that, and I didn't. But I needed to talk it out with somebody, and that was really helpful. And was part of why I ended up moving to Vegas instead of sticking around Roanoke or moving home or anything like that. So, just some personal advice time that I got from Sheldon over Twitter DMs, which was nice.
Power Dragon?
And I wrote about this a little bit, one of my early tournaments where I didn't know who the hell Sheldon was, and he comes over and kind of, at the time, I don't think I was aware, but I think in hindsight, it was more of the, like, hey, there's this one kind of single out black dude kind of hanging out over here. Let's make sure, he's welcome into the fold, kind of a thing. And that wasn't, on top of my mind, wasn't really a concern. I'm more just like taking in the moment in the room and whatever. But, he strikes up a conversation. We start talking about stuff. And again, in typical Sheldon fashion, we're talking about, hey, how's your trip been? How's your weekend? Like, not asking about Magic, not how the tournament's going or whatever. But then over the years, I think we kind of settle into like, yeah, I just kind of got used to the fact that I'm going to be one of maybe 1 to 3 black dudes in the room, and that's just the way it's going to be. But he had the mindset of like, but it doesn't have to be, like we need to change that. And it was something that he was always cognizant of like, how do we include more people? How do we get more people involved? How do we make more people feel comfortable? How do we break some of these barriers? And it was never a thing that was like he was heavily pushing. It was just something he believed in. And if he could make a decision that helped that, he would, and you saw that with the people he invited on his streams, the people who tried to coach up through judging, the charities he supported. Like, he was just an all around solid guy that was just behind everything. Obviously there's something bad about everybody, but gosh damn, if you aren't going to have to look hard to pick something out about him, man. Like, he was a good dude all the way to the end.
Yeah, he was absolutely terrific. And one of the things I mentioned before was, he went out of his way to make sure that the people who he worked with or worked alongside, that their bosses or supervisors, whoever was in that chain, knew that he appreciated them. And the way that he showed his love for his friends and the people that he worked with, I have a DM where he was asking about somebody, saying that they had clearly worked very hard on the show, and will you find out what kind of booze or wine that they like so I can bring them something. Like, that he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? He didn't have to reach out and ask and make a point to be like, hey, not only am I praising this person and letting you know that, can I bring them a gift that would matter to them or would impact them, something that they're interested in, and sort of taking care of people that way, and, taking care of his friends and taking time to always have, his friends come, to his house and, parties and whatnot that I've heard, just legendary, wine outings and stuff, because he's a super cool wine guy. And again, just one of the most fascinating guy in the world, right? There was always something to talk about. He always had some funny story or some cool thing that you hadn't known or discussed with him before. And, and even just to discuss, I mean, at one point I was discussing my love of comics and The Boys, and he was just like absolutely right on it and talking about the comics that he liked and the comics he read. And that was super cool. And so, RIP Sheldon Menery. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
So that said, that was our live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it's good to be here as always. Don't forget, leave your reviews and your 5 stars, because I think we earned it.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all of the attention and the subs and the bits, and be good to each other.
And thanks Sheldon for everything you did.
Absolutely.
He's great. We want to hear to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. Hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.